Something is cooking down in Miami, and it ain't just the Cuban sandwiches. The Dolphins' offense is straight up sizzling. In Week 3, Miami's offense put up one of the most dominant displays in NFL history, racking up 70 points to help the Dolphins improve to 3-0 on the young season. Even with Jalen Waddle sidelined, the Dolphins' attack made Denver's defense look like little boys in a shellacking one Broncos linebacker described as the most embarrassing game he'd ever been a part of. And if the first 3 weeks of the campaign are any indication, this Dolphins offense is poised to continue embarrassing opposing defenses all season long. In fact, they're on pace to possibly go down as the greatest offense in NFL history. For real. We'll explain. Sit back, relax, and take this in. This episode is presented by DQ Canada. Alright, let's get into it. It was pretty clear that this Dolphins offense was dangerous after they put up 60 points through their first 2 games. A hot start that came as no surprise either. Last season, the Dolphins finished 6th in the NFL in total yards and 11th in points despite missing quarterback Tua Tagovailoa for a portion of the season and despite their struggles to run the ball. Cut to 2023, however, and Tua is extremely back, the Dolphins' running game looks entirely different, and now, following their 70-point explosion against Denver in Week 3, it looks like this group has the potential to be historically great. First, let's talk about their beatdown of the Broncos, because, wow. In their first home game of 2023, the Dolphins put on a show for the ages, becoming the 4th team in NFL history and the first since 1966 to put up a 70-burger. They demolished their previous franchise record for points, which was 55, and finished 2 points shy of the NFL's single-game regular season record for points, and 3 points shy of the 73 that the Chicago Bears put up in the 1940 NFL Championship game. Along the way, the Dolphins racked up 726 yards of total offense, 9 yards shy of the single-game record established by the 1951 Rams. Meanwhile, the Dolphins became the first team in NFL history with 5 passing touchdowns and 5 rushing touchdowns in a game. Their 2 running backs, Raheem Mostert and rookie Devon Achane, each scored 4 touchdowns apiece, marking just the 2nd time ever that 2 teammates have each scored 4 TDs from scrimmage in a game. And Tua, who was lifted early in the 4th quarter, had more passing touchdowns than incompletions. No, really. The only reason the Dolphins didn't match the NFL's single-game record for points is because head coach Mike McDaniel opted to show the Broncos and their new head coach Sean Payton some mercy by kneeling instead of attempting a record-tying field goal in the dying moments of the 4th. Still, despite that display of magnanimity, the historic beatdown still left an embarrassed Payton at a loss for words. And that brings us to our Take This In trivia question, presented by DQ Canada. When you crave happy, DQ delivers. Which franchise holds the NFL record for highest regular season margin of victory? A. Chicago, B. Dallas, C. New England, or D. Philadelphia? This is how our YouTube community responded, but the correct answer? It's D. Philadelphia. The Eagles set the record in 1934 when they defeated the Cincinnati Reds by a score of 64-zip. Rough day in Cincy. Coming back to 2023 though, 3 weeks into the season, the Dolphins are the only undefeated team remaining in the AFC, they boast the best point differential in the NFL, and their production on offense has them making an early case as the greatest offense of all time. Their 130 points through 3 weeks rank 2nd in NFL history, behind only the 1968 Dallas Cowboys. Meanwhile, no team has ever racked up more total yards through the first 3 games in a season than Miami has. And that's not because they've run a ridiculous number of plays. It's because they're averaging more yards per play than any other team in history through 3 games. In fact, the only other team to average more than 8 yards per play through Week 3 was the 2000 St. Louis Rams, the reigning Super Bowl champions affectionately known as the greatest show on turf. Ultimately, the Dolphins are on pace for a whopping 737 points and more than 9,000 total yards, both of which would eviscerate the current single-season records. And at their current per-game numbers, they'd claim those records even without the benefit of a 17th regular season game, which is something every other serious contender for best offense ever didn't have. But 3 weeks in, the Dolphins are averaging almost a touchdown more per game than the 2013 Denver Broncos, the current record holder for single-season points. They're also averaging more than 80 more yards per game than the 2011 New Orleans Saints, who own the single-season record for total yards. Obviously, of course, their numbers are going to be inflated after a 70-point outburst in their 3rd game of the season, but the thing is, this offense really truly looks like one of the most dynamic and dangerous in NFL NFL history. Just like he did a season ago, Tua once again leads the NFL in quarterback rating. And in the face of continuing skepticism over his ability to throw the ball downfield, all he's done this year is lead the NFL in yards per attempt and air yards per attempt, which quantifies how far the ball traveled in the air before being caught. Meanwhile, Tyreek Hill, who already has 4 receiving touchdowns and is averaging more than 137 receiving yards per game, is virtually unguardable. According to Player Profiler, he ranks in the 94th percentile or above in burst score, agility score, and catch radius, while Next Gen Stats has him as the fastest ball carrier on record this season. Also, don't forget about Jalen Waddle, a dangerous deep threat who led the NFL in yards per reception last year and is currently leading the league in average yards after catch above expectation. And then there's the running game, which was the offense's lone weak spot a year ago. Well, thanks to A-Chain's game-changing speed, the Dolphins' multiple downfield threats, and McDaniel's increasing proclivity for pre-snap discombobulations, Miami's rushing game has turned into a major strength. According to ESPN, on a per-carry basis, they lead the NFL in rushing yards over expectation, and they've already racked up 4 rushes this season of 30 or more yards. Do you know how many 30-yard rushes they had last season? 1. Simply put, this offense seemingly excels in every facet, and this unit has turned the Dolphins into one of the scariest teams in the NFL. And while their mettle will be tested in Week 4 against the Buffalo Bills, this divisional matchup represents a golden opportunity for the Dolphins and their vaunted offense to establish themselves as the new top dog in the AFC East. In any event though, what we've seen so far from this Miami offense is nothing short of historic, and if they can sustain even close to this level of productivity for the next few months, they could go down as the greatest offense football has ever seen.